Hello and welcome. Welcome to our lunchtime webinar, NLP in Practice. I'm really pleased that you've been able to come along and join me today, so thank you for that. I do realise everybody has very busy lives these days, so thank you for taking the time. Over the next hour, you're going to hear some information about NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and more specifically, how it can be used in practice. And I know you're going to be able to start to visualise how NLP could fit into your world and how it could really enhance your life. I'm Christine Dawson, Master Trainer of NLP, and this is NLP in Practice, a discovery webinar for bringing NLP to life. I'd like to begin by just introducing Quest for Success Limited. I'm the owner, managing director and lead trainer of Quest for Success Limited. And we were founded in 2007, so we've been around for quite a while now. We provide world-class certification training in NLP, in timeline therapy, in NLP coaching, and in hypnosis. We also provide professional coaching and mentoring, so working one-to-one with clients. And we work with businesses too. And what we're about is building successful mindsets and navigating change. And there you can see our website address. So if you want to pop along there and have a good browse through all the trainings that we offer, you'd be very welcome there. We work from our office base, which is in Oldham in Greater Manchester. You can see a picture there on the right. And we have our own training space, which is great because it means we have full control over it. And it's a lovely, quiet training area. And you might be looking at the picture in the middle and thinking, surely they haven't got a swimming pool in Oldham. Well, no, we haven't. This is our training space in Evia, which is a Greek island just off the east coast of the mainland. And we run our flagship training there, our Trainers Training. So if you were to take the full journey of your NLP training, that's where you could end up, in this beautiful swimming pool. So we are international in nature. We reach out to people all over the world with our online trainings. And we've also trained quite substantially over in Athens in Greece and also in Cyprus. So let's think about neuro-linguistic programming. That's why you're here, to think about NLP. So I'm going to give you a little insight today into what NLP is, because it can get very confusing when you use the internet to search for any information about NLP. There's a lot of information out there and lots of it reads in a very conflicting nature. There are different schools of NLP that train NLP slightly differently and think about it in slightly different ways. Understand that it all comes from the same base point. It all comes from the original learning. It's just evolved so that different schools of NLP teach it in a slightly different way, coming at it from a slightly different angle. So it can be very confusing to know what NLP actually is. So I want to bring clarity for you today around that. So let's start right at the basics. What is NLP? It's the study of what we do in our heads when we do something that's highly successful. Now, when we think about people doing things successfully, we tend to look at them and look at their behaviour, their external behaviour, what we can see, what we can hear. What are they doing? What do they look like? How are they dressing? What behaviours are they exhibiting? What policies, what processes are they using? That's all observed from the outside. What NLP does is it observes from the inside. Because what's driving those people? What made them select those behaviours? What made them select that outfit? What made them select the language that they use? That's what we're interested in. What goes on in somebody's mind in order to produce the behaviour? That's what NLP is. It's both an art and a science. And it shows us how we can positively change human behaviour, and to do that really quickly and actually really easily with results that are long lasting. So one of the things I'd like you to really grab onto as you picture NLP in your mind is that it's simple. This is the thing. Anybody can learn it. That's the beauty of it. The way it's been created is a way that allows anybody to learn it. You don't have to have a background in psychology or HR or personal development. You can learn NLP whatever background you come from, because it's about people and the way they think, and you're a person and you think. So you'll be able to learn it, whatever your background. NLP does have a scientific background. It came from academia, as most things do. And it modelled all of the science of the mind that was around at the time that it was developed. It comes from a scientific basis. The art is how you apply it, how you use it, and how you apply it to your everyday life. And that's something else that I really want you to understand today, is that NLP, once you've learned it, is something that you will use every second of every day, because it's about your thinking and about how you communicate with the world around you. And you do that all the time. So once you've learned to think in a certain way and to control that thinking and to understand that thinking, then you can start to think on purpose to produce your really, really excellent results. So it's something you use all the time. It's not something that you learn, you take the folder and you put it on the shelf and you never look at it again. It's something that gets integrated into your way of behaving, your way of thinking, so that you can think more productively, more effectively, and achieve more of the results that you want, avoiding all that anxiety, stress, or even depression, or panic, or fear, or anger in the world. Being able to really get in control of it and make practical use of that thinking day after day after day. It's a model of excellence. So what we're doing with NLP is we're navigating change. Change happens all the time. Something's changing in your world every day. And it might be a really small change, or it might be something pretty big. We've all been through that in the last 18 months, huge changes to our lives. Did you experience that change positively or not? And however you experienced the change that we've all experienced together depends on how you thought about it. So NLP is about navigating life's changes. It's in effect an instruction manual for your mind. When you were born, you didn't come with a manual. Your parents didn't have a set of instructions on how to operate you and how to grow you. What NLP, it is that instruction manual, so that you can use your own thinking, your own mind more productively. When you can think productively, you get more of what you want. You create more of your goals. It's the study of what successful people do in their heads to create success. all the world's successful people, entrepreneurs, people who, sports people who are at the top of their game, they all have a way of using their thinking. And it's different to what people do that are not successful. So they think in a certain way. And what NLP has done is modeled that, looked inside the person and discovered what it is they do in their thinking that causes them to be exceptional. What causes them to be the cream that floats to the top of the milk? What causes them to be world champions, Olympic champions, champions of industry? What enables people to get to the top? It's a study of human behaviour and how to change that behaviour. So in NLP, we're very rooted in the belief that people can change their behaviours if they're motivated to do so, no matter what those behaviours are. In the UK, in England, we have a saying, a leopard can't change its spots. I know you've got something probably similar in your language, wherever you are in the world. In NLP, we believe the opposite. People can change if they are motivated to do so. NLP is also a very positive and powerful catalyst for change. So if you want to change something about you, about your life, about how you're doing, how much money you're earning, what job you're doing, how you're behaving towards people, how you're feeling right now. If you want to change that, NLP is an easy and effective way of doing just that. So it's become a global standard for excellence. And it works across all contexts of your life because you are in all contexts of your life. Remember, it's about you. It's about how you think and how you behave and how you feel. So whether you're in your social environment or your business environment, doesn't matter, it's still you. So NLP has been used extensively, particularly over the last 5 to 10 years in business. Some of the top businesses in the world have trained their staff in NLP across the board so that everybody is thinking along the same lines. Everybody's communicating in a way that works. And everybody has values and goals that are all pointed in the same direction. Imagine a business that had that. So no misunderstandings, no lack of communication, no values that are misaligned, everybody working in harmony towards the same end goal. That's a successful business. When NLP was created, it was created very much in the therapeutic world. How can we have individuals get away from something they don't want in their thinking and towards something they really do want? So coaching and therapy, which creates overall holistic health and well-being. NLP is used substantially in this area too. So therapy, as it was known, has now become more involved in the coaching world. So instead of looking back, looking forward and thinking about how you can achieve your goals and be the best version of you. That's what NLP seeks to achieve, the best possible version of you. Many sports people are using NLP to either replace or to seriously enhance their sports psychology. So allowing those sports people to get in control of how they think and how they feel, not just before they do their sport, during what they're doing as their sport. So for example, if a runner is on the start line, ready for the gun to go, and doesn't really feel right, doesn't really feel ready, A little bit of NLP thinking done very, very quickly can have them sort out how they feel, sort out how they're thinking about the race to come very quickly on the start line so that they can produce their optimum performance. Very much of sport is about belief. If you've ever watched the Olympics and you hear the interviews that they do with the sports people, they all mention the word belief. I believed I could do it. We believed as a team that we could win. Belief is key, and we work a lot with beliefs in NLP. Very, very slowly and gradually, NLP is starting to find its way into education. It's not across the board by any means. It's very slow. It's very slowly getting integrated. And that's great news, because when we think about NLP in education, what we're thinking about is enabling our children to learn the way their brains want to learn, rather than pushing everyone through the same system. So my hope, my desire, is that we start to use NLP in education far more broadly. And we'll see where the future takes us. And of course, NLP is used really prolifically in the field of personal development. Again, it's about your own growth. How are you growing? How are you taking yourself forward? And are you finding that easy, or are you finding it difficult? So NLP is a way of really boosting your personal growth so that you can be the best possible version of you. Let's have a look at that in a little more precision, a little bit more specifically. With NLP, whether you used it for personal development or for business or for your career, it awards you with many new personal skills and tools. It's a bit like a one-stop shop for personal development. So there are lots of personal development trainings out there where you can learn different skills and tools. And this whole list here, you could probably take one training per everything on this list. The difference with NLP is you get them all within one training. So we think about communication, the language that we use and how we communicate with everyone around us in every single area of our life, and to do that with mastery. When you're great with language, it makes you influential. It allows you to be able to influence people to your ideas and to negotiate really elegantly towards win-win solutions. That's important if you're in selling, in sales. And you might not have sales in your job title. However, we're all selling things all of the time. Ideas, concepts. When you're going to interview, you're selling your own skills and your own abilities. We're always selling something, even if it's bedtime to our children. So in NLP, we allow you to develop the skills to sell successfully, whatever that might be. NLP allows you to really listen. And we've all lost that skill, listening to people, just being quiet and really listening, being present, without thinking, what am I going to say next? Listening to the person. And when you really listen, and you listen intently to the language they use, you can discover what it is they really mean. Listening between the lines. It's a real skill that enhances your communication skills 100-fold. If you know what people really mean, you can have the correct conversation. That helps you to build relationships, whether that's friendships, business relationships, or indeed romantic relationships. Everything we learn in NLP can be used in coaching and in therapy, and in business, to create success in all of those areas. And many people that take an NLP training, when they learn it, they become coaches or therapists, or they take it into their businesses and seriously accelerate their careers because they can think differently and they're able to solve problems. When you can think differently and solve problems, your decision making becomes really effective. An effective decision maker can then become a good leader and a good manager. And leaders and managers need all of these skills and many more. And everything that we have within NLP enables you to lead with power and lead in a way that people want to follow you. Developing management skills to be able to manage people, policy, processes in a way that works. And when you've got all of these skills and tools, you're going to increase your own health and well-being. The mind-body connection is so powerful. And quite often we misunderstand what the mind-body connection is about. If you have a healthy mind, you have a healthy body, and healthy body, you can have a healthy mind. The two work together. So NLP is often used to help people with their health and well-being. And of course, when you've really honed all of these skills and tools, you will have the capacity to earn more. And we talk about this in NLP, your relationship to money. Because people often have a very unhealthy relationship with money. And once that changes, you stop repelling it from your life and start attracting it. So if we look deeper inside self and really think about NLP from a personal development point of view, then we get some more helpful ways in which we can develop. And you know, some people learn NLP just for this reason. They don't want to be coaches, they don't want to be therapists, they're not interested in taking it into their careers or their business, they just do it for themselves. And you know what? That's one of the best reasons for learning NLP. Look at all these practical uses. NLP allows you to create total self-belief. Imagine that. If you really, truly, honestly believed in yourself, what could you achieve? That gives you confidence, whatever confidence is for you. It's different for everybody. When you're confident, you feel empowered. When you're empowered, you get motivated and you start to take the actions that will lead you towards your goals. Sometimes when we're working towards our goals, our past gets in the way. It starts to pull us back and say, remember when you did this, didn't work, so why are you doing it now? And it holds us back from just taking those steps towards our goals. So when we're working within NLP, we work to resolve and complete the past, so it no longer pulls us back. We look to resolve internal conflict. So, you know, when you're having that argument with yourself, it's almost like you've got the devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other shoulder, and they're arguing. You can do it. No, you can't. Yes, I can. No, you can't. And that causes conflict. And that takes energy to maintain a conflict. It doesn't feel good. So we work on resolving internal conflict and also in controlling your emotional content. Now, that's a biggie, isn't it? Getting in control of how you feel. So in those moments where you feel nervous or anxious, imagine being able to get in control of that and change it to something more resourceful straight away, immediately. Imagine being able to change your unwanted behaviours. You know, all those little things that you keep doing and you think, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I could do something better instead. It's a habit and I keep doing it. When we use NLP, we're able to change those unwanted behaviours. And when we change behaviour and how you think about your world, you can actually begin to change your reality. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you how that works. You can remove unhelpful strategies and get the energy to create success. Again, all of these things create your own personal health and well-being, enable you to fill your potential and to create your future. And at the end of the day, what we're all striving for is just to be happy. And NLP creates that. It allows you to get to a position where you can create happiness. So let's have a look at how NLP works, because I want you to have something that you can think about after this webinar and take away with you. So you can start to perhaps think a little bit differently about how you're thinking and how you're taking the steps to create the future that you want. So I want to share with you a model of thinking. This is what we call the NLP communication model. And it starts with the world around you. Let's call them events. So outside of you, in the world around you, things are happening. Things are happening all the time. And that is coming into your neurology inside of you through your 5 senses. Now, your 5 senses are visual, your sight, auditory, your hearing, kinesthetic, your sense of touch, olfactory, which is your sense of smell, and gustatory, which is your sense of taste. Those are your sensory organs. And they are switched on all of the time, and they're gathering information from outside of yourself. Now, that's a lot of information. In fact, studies showed that it's in the order of 12 million bits per second of information. Well, if you don't know anything about IT and, packets of information, that's a lot. That's a great deal of information. In fact, it's too much for your conscious mind to deal with. Now, your conscious mind is the mind that's listening and watching and thinking logically and analytically right now. It doesn't have capacity for storage or recall. That happens in your unconscious mind. So your conscious mind has very little capacity. It's basically just dealing with the here and now. It's your unconscious mind that does all of the processing and all of the storage of all your experiences. So what has to happen in order for your conscious mind to make sense of things? Your unconscious mind gets involved, because this 12 million bits of information needs dealing with. So unconsciously, some of that information you delete. So I don't need that piece of information right now, just get rid of it. Some of it you distort. So you might change it a little bit so it better fits your model of the world. And then some of the information it generalizes. So yeah, I've had this experience or a similar one before. I don't need to remember all of this information. I'll just batch it together with a similar experience that I've had previously. And so through your personal filtering system, and it is personal to you, no two people do this the same. That's why we're all different. What happens is that information gets distilled down to your internal representation. And that's only about 126 bits per second of that 12 million. Wow, So we've gone from loads to tiny bit. And that's how you make sense of your world, with that chosen 126 bits of information. And if you think about it logically, it's highly improbable that any two people will select exactly the same 126 bits per second in order to represent the world around them. That's why everybody thinks differently. So you form what we call an internal representation in your mind that represents the event that's outside of yourself, unique to you. And at any one time, you're running around 7 plus or minus 2 different internal representations, no more than that. So we are quite restricted in how many things we can consider at the same time. Now, remember when we said the mind and body are inextricably connected. So that internal representation, which is held inside in your mind with pictures, with sounds, with feelings, and that thing we call self-talk, you know, the dialogue in your head that's constantly talking, constantly commenting and doing a narrative of what's happening. All of that, along with how your body feels, your physiology, produce what we call in NLP jargon a state. So your state is a combination of your internal representation with your emotions attached to it and how your body feels. It gives you a state. An example of a state might be a motivated state. When you're motivated, your body feels a certain way, your breathing feels a certain way, your heart rate feels a certain way, and you've got certain pictures or movies in your mind, you're experiencing certain emotions with that, and you're saying things to yourself that are increasing the motivation. That would be a state. It happens, works the other way too. Sad state, stress state, depressed state. So we create a state depending on this internal representation. And those things provide a little feedback loop. And that's what produces our external behavior. So once you understand this, and it's this simple, you basically understand the basis of NLP. So if we start to get in control of and change internal representations on purpose, we can change state, we can change physiology, and we can produce different behavior. This is how it works. Now, to make this work, as you start to learn NLP, there's a very important way of thinking that I'd like to share with you. And this is thinking about how you get empowered. It's a simple equation. Cause must be greater than effect. Let me explain what I mean. So when somebody is thinking at effect, they basically have reasons and excuses for why their life is like it is right now. And they point outside of themselves. So everything in their life is because of COVID. It's because of the government. It's because of the financial crisis. It's because of the fact that I have a family. It's because of my husband, my wife. It's because I have children. Because. And everything is outside of themselves. Now, it's quite comfortable and easy to sit there because, hey, nothing's because of me. It's all because of other things and other people. It might be comfortable. The thing is that your results are highly unpredictable because control sits outside of yourself. It's all their responsibility, not mine. So what you've in effect done when you're sitting in your reasons and excuses is you've given away your personal power. You've pushed it outside of yourself and given it to everything and everybody else. So when you give away your personal power, you give away your empowerment. And that's not a resourceful place to be. So if we can think about cause, the cause side of the equation is when we take all of that responsibility back. So we say, I agree and I recognise that my life is like it is right now because of me. Now, please understand, I'm not talking about blame. I'm not talking about beating yourself up and blaming yourself for everything. No, I'm talking about taking responsibility so that you can get results. Now, I realise that, there are loads of things outside of yourself that you have no control over, like COVID and the acts of the government and the economic financial status. You personally don't have any control over that. What you do have control of is how you respond to it. That's up to you. That's what we're talking about here. How you respond to the world around you from a position of responsibility. And once you do that, then what you do in effect is you take all of your personal power back. You take it all back. Now you have all the power. So moving from effect to cause enables you to have the power to achieve your results, and therefore you become empowered. So I'd like you to think about, which side am I on right now? And it might change. It might be context dependent. You might be at cause at home and an effect at work, or indeed it might flip during the day. So what I'd really like you to think about just after you've left the webinar is, how many times am I pointing outside of myself? And can I now consciously be aware of that and bring it back inside and think, how am I going to respond? How would I like to respond? What's the more resourceful way of responding? Especially when you're thinking about emotions and other people, because we do it in our language all the time. They upset me. They made me angry. They've made me sad. What you did made me. We say it all the time. And actually, nobody can make you feel anything. It's a choice. It's a response. And when you start to get consciously aware of that choice and that response, you can get in control of it. So I'd like you just to continue to think about that as you go through the rest of your day and your weekend. Just hold it in your mind and think, how empowered am I, and how can I get more empowerment? Empowerment is important when you step out of your comfort zone. So we all have a zone, a grey zone, in which we feel most comfortable. Everything works really well and it's easy and we feel confident and it's not challenging us in any way. And when we do that, sometimes our quality of life can get really bad because stuff happens, let's be realistic. And sometimes it's really good. But the majority of the time we spend it in our grey zone. Our quality of life is okay. It's not too bad. It's okay. It's kind of mediocre. And it kind of feels like, well, I'm settling for what I've got. I'm not really pushing my life to a place that would be more in that really good zone. Because to do that, you have to step outside of your comfort zone, and that feels challenging. What I'd like you to also think about as you go back to your work or your life after the webinar is, how often do you actually step outside of your comfort zone? Because every time you step outside of your comfort zone, something really magical happens. Yes, it feels challenging. Of course it does. Sometimes it might feel a little bit, ooh, scary. But the more you step out of it, the more you grow. Your comfort zone will expand with each little step. So when we work with NLP, this is one of the things that we empower people to do. Be confident and willing to step out of their comfort zone, so that comfort zone starts to grow. And then you can push your life more into that band where quality is really, really good for more time. Now, a couple of times already, I've said the words unconscious mind. I'd just like to explore that a little bit more with you. All the work we do with NLP works at the unconscious level, because all learning, all behaviour, and all of your capacity to change is done unconsciously. It's not done with the conscious mind. So I want you to understand your unconscious mind a little bit more, because it's very important. Your unconscious mind is simply that part of your mind that you're not consciously aware of right now. That's all it is. And it has certain functions that are very important to your existence as a human being. It stores and organises all of your memories, everything, right from the moment you were born, or maybe even before that. And it stores them so that you have concept of time in terms of your memories, and it organises them so that you can have recall. It runs and preserves your body. Again, very, very important. So you don't consciously think of breathing. Your unconscious deals with that. You don't consciously think of digesting your meal. Your unconscious mind does that. You don't consciously think of blinking to moisten your eyes. Your unconscious mind does that. So it's constantly running and preserving your body, one of its really important directives. It uses and responds to the symbology of life. We have symbols around us constantly. Marketing symbols, religious symbols, family symbols, they're everywhere. And we all take meaning from them. And the way we take meaning is from our unconscious. Our conscious mind is not really interested in symbology or metaphor, just wants the facts. It's your unconscious mind that works with the symbolism of life that's all around you. Your unconscious mind's where your emotions come from. You don't consciously create emotion. It comes to you unconsciously. And it needs clear orders to follow. So here's the thing. When you speak, when you communicate outside of yourself and inside yourself with your self-talk, you need to be very precise. Your unconscious mind is always listening, and it needs clear orders to follow. So what we say in NLP is say it the way you want it and be clear. Your values, your beliefs, your moral compass sit within your unconscious mind. So it's like your little protector. In NLP, in hypnosis, there is nothing anybody can do to make you do something that is against your moral code. Your unconscious mind will protect you from that. So when we use NLP, we use it ethically and with win-win solutions in mind. All of your habits and your behaviours come from your unconscious. That's why it's, you know, if you want to break habit and you try and do it consciously, it's hard and it takes time. Anyone who's even ever done a diet or stopped smoking and done it consciously will know how hard it is, and it doesn't always work. If you work on changing behaviours and habits at the unconscious level, then you get results quickly and easily, and that's what NLP does for us. Your unconscious mind takes everything personally. So if you're thinking something uncharitable about somebody else, your unconscious mind thinks you're talking about you, and it's going to produce the emotion and the content that goes with that. You might want to consider that going forward. And finally, and very importantly in terms of how we communicate, your unconscious mind doesn't process negatives directly. So when you say don't do something, then what a person hears is the something. Try this. Don't think of a blue tree. What was the first thing that popped into your mind? Yeah, a blue tree. The fact is that you've got to consciously conceive of something before you can then choose whether to action it or not. So the unconscious mind isn't processing the negative. You've then consciously got to decide whether you're going to process it or not. Think about when you say to your children, don't play in the road. Well, the child's mind is then processing, play in the road. Oh, I'd not thought of that. And a child's mind doesn't often go towards the logical consequences of actions. They've not developed that skill yet. And so they choose to go off and play in the road. If you say to a child, stay in the garden, they're going to stay in the garden. You're saying it the way you want it. So again, you can think about that as you go back into your daily lives and you start functioning in the world. How many times do you tell people what not to do? And start changing that. Tell them what you'd like them to do instead. It's going to make it easier for them to process your words and to put them into action. Now, I've spoken a lot about the practical use of NLP in every day and how we use NLP and the modelling of excellence in order to create the results that you want. So I'd like to share with you the 5 key principles of success that have come from the NLP study of excellence. I want to share these with you because they're really easy concepts for you to start to wind into your daily lives. The first one is knowing your outcome. NLP found that the most excellent people know what they want. They know their direction of travel. They know the outcomes that they're working towards, and they know them with precision and specificity. They know specifically what it is they want to achieve. So think about that. Do you know your direction of travel? Do you know what you're working towards? Do you know what you want? Do you know what the future will look like and sound like and feel like for you? When we work with NLP, we do a lot of work on goal setting and how to do it in a way that really works. So you must know your outcome. Otherwise, you start meandering around and you never get to where you want to be. It's a bit like if you got into your car in the morning with no destination in mind at all, and you just started driving, and you drive and drive and drive and drive until you run out of fuel, and you've arrived exactly nowhere. That's what you're doing in your life if you haven't got a clear idea of what outcomes you're actually looking for. Your unconscious mind doesn't know which direction to take you in, which behaviours to produce, which emotions to produce to get you where you want to be, because it doesn't know. So people who are really exceptional know exactly what it is they're working towards, what they want to achieve. Then once you know that, you've got to take action. And that means, getting up and doing something. You may have heard of the law of attraction, and that's great. Yes, your thinking processes and what you're projecting into the world is going to attract what you want. What the law of attraction misses is that you've actually then got to take action. You've got to do something about it. And excellent people do that. They think of what they want to do and then they do it. They don't just sit and think about it. They do some physical action. the way things work. You've got to be driven and motivated to get up and do what you want to do, actually do things rather than just conceiving of them. And NLP gives us that motivation, that empowerment, that drive, that belief to enable us to take action. It's also important that we have something that in NLP jargon we call sensory acuity. And what that means is being present and being consciously aware of all of your senses. Remember the 5 senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. It means being present in now. Just looking around wherever you are now and seeing things in detail, noticing colours, noticing shapes and textures, hearing things, listening to the wind blow in the trees, listening to the wildlife around you, listening to the noises in your workspace, listening to other people speaking, feeling what it feels like. Is it cold on your skin? Is it warm? What do your clothes feel like? What does the chair feel like that you're sat in? Are there any smells in the air? Is it fresh? Is it musty? Can you smell the smells of the office? Are you outdoors? And thinking about being really switched on when you eat something, just tasting it, tasting the air when you're outside. This is what we mean by sensory acuity, having everything switched on. And you know what, when you do that, the world goes into Technicolor. It almost goes into, like you were watching something in 3D on the telly. Everything kind of jumps up at you and it all starts to look very colourful and very, very rich. And this is when you notice things. And the purpose of doing this is so you can recognise opportunity. Because if you don't have great sensory acuity, you miss things. You miss things that are going on in your world. And when you miss things, you miss opportunities. Successful people are also very flexible in their behaviour. They can change what they're doing in a moment to fit the situation that they're in. They can communicate differently depending on who they're speaking to. They can show different behaviours in different contexts. And that's really important as a principle for success. You've got to be flexible. And finally, excellent people operate from both a physiology and a psychology of excellence. So they think in an excellent way. And NLP is the map to doing that, being able to think in an excellent way. And if we think about the communication model that we've just looked at, we know that the physiology of how you're operating connects with the psychology of how you're operating. And if you think about when you look at someone who's highly successful, they use their physiology in a certain way. It's a way that brings the success to them. So we think about all of these things when we're thinking about developing our own success. And NLP helps us with all of these things. So to create success in all of the contexts of your life, you need to be in charge of your focus. When you're in charge of your focus, you can get in charge of your results. Your energy will flow wherever your attention's at. So if you focus on what you want, you can create your desired future. So my invitation to you is to give up arguing for your limitations. Focus on what you're good at. Focus on all the best bits of you. And NLP can help you to change the rest. Leave your reasons and excuses behind. Get to cause. That's how you generate your results. Now, if I've started to generate questions in your mind, you can ask them now by just popping them in the chat. So just go to the chat, write in your question. I'm going to leave a couple of minutes at the end just to answer those questions, so pop them in there. So one of the questions that might be in your mind is, okay, so what does learning NLP look like? Well, there is a whole career path in NLP, which you might use for your own personal development, or you may indeed use it as a career path. So the first step is the NLP Coach Practitioner Training. This is the first level. So the Practitioner Training is an 8-day training, 8 concurrent days, with some pre-study. And the pre-study is very comprehensive, and it does take time. So I always recommend that when people are choosing to take an NLP Coach Practitioner Training, that they give themselves at least a month, ideally 2, in advance of the training beginning, to get that pre-study done in a way that you will feel comfortable with. The next step is to become a master, NLP Master Coach Practitioner Training. And between those two, there is an elective training in advanced clinical hypnosis. Now, at NLP Coach Practitioner and Master Coach Practitioner, you learn 4 related disciplines, all within NLP. And so you get 4 certifications, which are all board accredited. They all have international recognition. So no matter where you are in the world, they will be recognised. So you learn NLP, of course, at practitioner and master practitioner level. You learn NLP coaching, practitioner and master practitioner. You learn timeline therapy at practitioner and master practitioner training, and you learn hypnosis at practitioner and master practitioner. Then if you want to go forward and do what I do, train people in NLP, then you can do our Nlp Trainers Training. This is the one that we do on the island of Evia in Greece. You can also learn to train hypnosis at Hypnosis Trainers Training. And you can learn to train timeline therapy and NLP coaching, which are done by distance learning. Then there's a further step to the path, and if you want to become a master trainer, then we run a business accelerator and training mastery program, and that's a 5-year program of personal and business development that take you to the very top of the NLP profession. So let's have a look at our next trainings. So the next Enhanced NLP Coach Practitioner Training, so the basic level, is 8 days from the 7th to the 10th and the 14th to the 17th of February 2022, and that's online. It's live online. Now, over the past 18 months, we've got really good at training online. And what we found is you get 100% of the benefit that you get in a face-to-face training. There's no difference in the learning, and there's no difference in the experience other than that you're doing it from the comfort of your own home. So we've just broke it up a little bit. We've given you a 3-day break. So it's a set of 4, 3 days, set of 4, because looking at a screen for 8 days is a little bit much. So we're just giving you a break in between 2 sections. The next live training in the training centre here in Greater Manchester is the 12th to the 19th of March 2022. So if you're interested in either of those trainings, then now's the time to think about booking so that you can get your pre-study and you can use the Christmas break, and the new year to really get your teeth into that pre-study and get it done really easily and to the standard that I know that you want to do it to. And the accreditation is demonstrated here in these logos. So the ABNLP, the ABH, which is the Hypnosis Board, the Timeline Therapy Association, and the Coaching Division of the American Board of NLP. So you do get properly accredited training, and that means that you can practice as a practitioner immediately as you leave the training. So if you would like more information, just pop along to our website, all the W's, qfscoaching.com, or give me a call, give me a ring, have a chat. We can have a Zoom call. I'm always available and always really, really welcome to chat with you and talk about your training. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we will be doing future webinars to talk about different things. I hope you'll join us again. And I hope to see you on one of our live or online trainings next year. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye for now.